Hey guys, if you haven't already noticed, I am a huge fan of the Showa era of Godzilla films. It doesn't hurt that I grew up during this era, so these movies hold a lot of nostalgia for me. As a Godzilla fan, even if you grew up during the Heisei or the Millennium era, there are still plenty of good reasons of why you need to watch the first era of the Big G. So today, let's go over 10 good reasons of why you need to watch the movies of the Godzilla Showa era. The beginnings of kaiju culture. Suitmation is a Japanese term that describes tokusatsu films and TV shows that include actors wearing suits in order to portray a monster. Not only was the concept of suitmation pioneered and perfected by the crew responsible for Godzilla, but the original Gojira from 1954 is regarded as the first kaiju film. So if you like kaiju, suitmation, or tokusatsu, then this is a great place for you to start. The Godfathers of Godzilla. Part of the reason Godzilla's lasted for over 60 years is due to the solid beginning of the franchise. The first Godzilla movie is still held as one of the all-time greatest films ever produced, even by non-kaiju film critics. Toho Studios had a cast of film all-stars to make these early films, from its famous director Ishiro Honda to the genius of producer Tomoyuki Tanaka. Godzilla was then brought to life like no other movie monster before by the original Godzilla suit actor Haruo Nakajima. The final touches of brilliance and emotion were added by the amazing music of Akira Ifukube and the special effects of master technician Eiji Surabaya. It should be noted that many people who didn't grow up with this era see the special effects as a little dated, but in reality, many of these effects that were used were way ahead of the time when compared to effects in other films worldwide. Amount of content. Simply put, the Showa era has more movies than any other era with 15 films. This is where it all begins. Start off with Gojira and then see introductions of many of the franchise's most famous kaiju. Speaking of kaiju, along with having more films than any other era, the Showa era also contains a huge roster of monsters. This era was never short on kaiju, having 3 or 4 different monsters in a single Showa era film was fairly common. Team-ups. In no other Godzilla era will you see as many team-ups as you do during the Showa era. Godzilla would end up needing help from other monsters to take down King Ghidorah and Mechagodzilla, and this era had many other notable team-ups for fans of larger monster battles. Melee fighting. The Showa era is really the only era that concentrated on kaiju melee fighting. From the Heisei era on, the producers and directors felt that melee fighting made the monsters look too human-like, so the later movies contain much more range fighting than melee fighting. If you want to see throws, slams, and takedowns, look no further than the Showa era. Variety. Although many people think that the Showa era is a silly comedic era, it actually had a nice mix of different tones. There are movies with a more serious tone, sci-fi driven space stories, the acid trip standout of Godzilla vs. Hedorah, and then of course some more human-like Godzilla films that the era is known for. King Kong. This would be the only time when Toho actually had the rights to include King Kong into the Godzilla universe. We finally got to see King Kong face off with Godzilla, and then we see him again in King Kong Escapes. This fight was perhaps the most anticipated fight of all time on the big screen, and would spawn the next big crossover fight pitting Godzilla against Mothra. Although many people laugh when they look at that Kong suit, King Kong vs. Godzilla had the highest box office figures in this era. Fun. This Godzilla is just fun to watch. If you can give in to a more childish human-like Godzilla, you can really have a good time with these movies. I know many fans see this as the main drawback to this era, and I'll agree a little bit. If you didn't grow up with the Showa era, then it can be a little cheesy. But I think if you just embrace the nature of some of the more laid-back Godzilla films, you'll find that they're really enjoyable. Not to mention, I believe this human-like Godzilla nature may be what saved the whole franchise in the long run. It may have run out its welcome towards the end of the era, but it left long-standing memories in not just Godzilla fans, but much more importantly, it left memories in non-Godzilla fans that may have ignored the more serious Godzilla films. This more laid-back G would blend into pop culture, landing into commercials, TV, art, and just about everywhere else, making Godzilla into an icon that would stand the test of time. Godzilla, the Defender of Earth. One of the better side effects of a more child-friendly Godzilla was a Godzilla that protected the planet from other kaiju and or alien attacks. Having Godzilla as a hero for Earth would even allow for much larger kaiju like King Ghidorah, a space monster so huge and powerful that Godzilla would need the help of other monsters in order to defeat it. So what are your thoughts of the Godzilla Showa era? Are all the Showa fans older guys like myself, or do any of you that grew up in the later Godzilla generation still enjoy this era? What do you love or hate about the Showa era? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, if you could leave a like, it would help out the channel so much. And if you haven't subscribed yet, why not subscribe for all the future Godzilla goodness to come? All of your likes, shares, comments, and subscriptions are very appreciated, and they go a long way to help the channel grow. Thanks again for your support, have a good one, and I hope to see you next time.